So resource person has joined.
Very good morning, madam.
She has muted her mic, sir.
Madam, you unmute your mic, madam. You have muted your mic. Please unmute it.
There is a mic icon in your computer. It is red in color, ma'am. There is a mic icon in your screen. You please click it.
Click that.
You can inform her through phone, sir.
Yeah.
Durga Devi, please keep your camera off.
Ma'am?
Now say.
Hello, ma'am. Now can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay.
Now it's
Fine. Still time, no? So we can just have a formal discussion.
Sir, your mic.
Sir, shall I start, sir?
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Your voice is audible, ma'am.
Sir, your mic is off.
Your mic is off. Yeah.
Madam, you're audible.
yeah, you are audible. Yeah.
Sir, I'm audible, no? You can
Yes,
hear
you're
me?
audible.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
audible.
Yes.
Okay, so the mic is working. There is no need
Yes.
to put on
Yeah,
extra,
yeah.
now? Okay, fine.
No,
No,
ma'am,
madam.
it's audible.
Okay.
Sir, shall I start, sir?
One second.
So it's only when you tell me to begin with, I will begin, sir.
Okay, madam. Okay, madam. Okay.
है ना?
Shankar,
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire. Albert Einstein. Good morning to all. On behalf of our Department of English and Arabic College, we welcome you to the National Webinar Lecture Series. Lecture 3 titled Gender Sensitization, a Feminist Approach in Literature. To be presented by Dr. Farzana Ali, Dr. Punjab Rao, Deshmukh Arts and Commerce College, Nagpur. Participants are requested to follow the instructions which we have posted in WhatsApp group. Thank you. Now, I requested our beloved Dr. Raju sir, head of the department and convener of the program, to welcome our chief guest and our participants.
a very warm good morning to you all. And a special good morning to Dr. Farzana Ali for having accepted our invitation. On this wonderful day, I, on behalf of the principal of Yadava College, Professor M. Shekhar, and the members of the Faculty of English, I warmly welcome you all. I deem it a great honor and privilege to welcome Dr. Farzana Ali, an eminent international scholar who has accepted our invitation to be amongst us in this virtual platform, and for having accepted to share her vast knowledge to us. Dr. Farzana Ali has immense credentials to her account. She has recently retired. She is an associate professor and head of the Department of English of Dr. Punjab Rao Deshmukh Arts Commerce Evening College, Nagpur. She is an MA, MPhil and PhD in English. She has a total teaching experience of 28 years and is an ex-Senate member of RTM University, Nagpur. She is a PhD guide and has published contemporary books which have been included in multiple international libraries, including the libraries of Oxford University, Cambridge University, University of Pennsylvania, SOAS, University of London, Trove, National Library of Australia, etc. Her areas of interest include Indian writing in English, women writing, and partition literature. Her articles have been published in many international and national journals. She has attended many seminars, conferences, workshops, and has been a resource person in many refresher courses. She has delivered lectures on literary aspects in NAC seminars and global issues. We have such an eminent personality, eminent academician amongst us, and I'm very happy to present her before you, dear participants. Thank you very much, madam. We welcome you once again.
Thank you, sir.
I welcome Professor M. Shekhar, Principal, Yadava College, who has been the brainchild behind this webinar. Welcome, sir. I am most happy to welcome the members of the Faculty of English, Yadava College, who are standing behind me with enthusiastic hearts and ever-smiling faces. Thank you, faculty members, and welcome. And I would be failing in my duty if I leave out the participants, because they are the fulcrum of this program. And I welcome the dear participants for having registered to this webinar and are very much they are for their enthusiasm in knowing about feminism. Once again, welcome to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your warm welcome, sir. Thank you. Now I invite our guest of honor, Dr. Farzana Ali ma'am, to address the gathering. Ma'am, the session is yours, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Respected principal of the college, the organizers of the webinar, the Department of English, convener of the program, Dr. Raju, dear participants and friends, a very good morning to all of you. I would like to express my deep and sincerest. I'm audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. I would like to express my deep and sincerest sense of gratitude towards the institution for inviting me here for the webinar. I am extremely grateful to Dr. Raju for his invitation on which I am here. This is my first experience, sir. I would like to confess that this is the first experience of attending a webinar and going and use of technology. So I hope so you would cooperate me in this direction. I am here to express my views on the much discussed and much debated topic on gender issues, gender sensitization in literature. We need to understand in this context the issue of gender inequality, gender sensitivity, gender discrimination, gender injustice. And all these issues of gender, they are expressed elaborately and very much in literature. With the time, with the change of thought, with the change in the feminist outlook, the question of gender need to be addressed in a more elaborate, more consistent way. There is still a need for everyone to create an awareness about the gender. Now, my topic today is gender sensitization, a feminist approach in literature. Now, gender and the issues of gender, gender discrimination, gender biases, all these need to be dealt with properly, because these issues are very much dealt in literature. We see it in women writing. We see not only in society, but in the writings, in the literature of today. And how with the gradual evolution in the thought, in the outlook, the issues of gender has been changed. So before addressing or coming to the topic of feminist approach in literature, let me begin with what is the need for gender sensitization. How are these issues dealt in literature? How feminist outlook can bring a change in creating awareness about sensitizing gender. These are some of the questions that need to be addressed in bringing a positive change in the society. The gender question is not just about men and women. The gender question is not about the rights and status. It is about treating both the genders equally. We need to understand that both are important and therefore entitled to equal treatment. We need to understand that irrespective of gender categorization, both men and women experience the same range of emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, frustration. These both men and women have equal ambitions, dreams, and desires too. So when we talk about gender, we talk about the social, cultural, and economic status of both the genders. But even today, gender discrimination and gender biases are prevalent in the society. Despite the equal opportunities of education and economic independence, women still remain a victim of domestic injustice within the family and outside. We know that women play an important and multilateral roles in the society. But in spite of this, women have to face a number of challenges and limitations in the day-to-day life. Now, all these challenges and all the limitations which she faces restrain her to comprehend her potential for personal growth and freedom to live a better and respectable life in the society. There is thus a great need to sensitize the society on gender issues so that there would be no discrimination on the basis of gender. The primary reason for this injustice and discrimination is, as we all know, the patriarchal mindset. In patriarchal societies, the male's perspective and contributions are considered more valuable, resulting in silencing and marginalization of women. There is a need to change this stereotype mindset of men and women, a mindset that strongly believes that men and women are unequal entities. We ought to be more alert, more sensitive to these challenges, the challenges that are damaging our mindset, those mindsets that are damaging our identity and existence. Now, this mindset has been percolated in young minds by the socio-cultural environment, which mainly includes the family, the educational institutions, and the society. Now, the major part of the responsibility for developing gender sensitization rests on the shoulders of the family and, of course, the educational institutions too. They are the ones who can kindle the gender inequality in young girls and boys and develop empathy for each other. There is an urgent need to develop a family atmosphere where all family members enjoy an equal status, equally respect and take care of each other, irrespective of their gender. But we see that women still suffer from gender inequality because of lack of sensitization on part of men and even on part of women. Gender inequality is a social phenomenon which consists of the idea that men are superior and women are inferior. It's time to educate now, time to educate men to respect women's dignity. It's time to provide equal opportunities to women. It's time to empower them so that they can play a major role in building discrimination-free nation. Now, though this mindset is changing with education, there is still a long way to go for a permanent change in the scenario. There is a need to create an awareness among people about the importance of gender equality. Gender awareness requires not only the intellectual understanding and effort, but also sensitivity and open-mindedness to change one's views and perspective. Achieving gender equality is not a woman's concern, but the responsibility of all in the society. Empowering women towards greater participation in development means working towards more balanced and equal power relations between the genders. However, the promotion of gender equality does not imply giving more power to women and taking away power from men. The promotion of equality between men and women is empowerment, empowerment for all. It allows both men and women to take part fully in social and economic life. But unfortunately, men in patriarchy deliberately wants to be superior to women. The problem, directly or indirectly, is related to lack of gender sensitivity. There are many questions that are debated constantly in public domain. Are men and women equal? Who is superior, man or woman? While these questions seem to be diverse, but they converge around a common theme, the issue of gender equality. What is gender equality then? Gender equality is an outcome of modern times, which is progressively gaining social, political, and legal significance, and is now assuming new dimensions. The world is changing rapidly. An increasing globalized economy, coupled with advances in legislation, technology, and communication, present us with new opportunities and challenges. As part of this change, relations between men and women are shifting. The change has opened up doors for women to participate in unprecedented ways. Many women are becoming political leaders. Women are increasingly contributing to the economy as entrepreneurs and educators. Women are at the forefront of change, organizing collectively to demand their rights. Now, these issues of gender discrimination, gender inequality has been discussed in literature. And in literature of modern times, the issue of gender equality is discussed elaborately. We have a number of women writers who have written extensively on gender discrimination. They have written on search for identity, written on isolation, alienation, repression through marriage, etc. There is women's struggle for freedom and self-realization. There is vast variety of themes that center around gender sensitivity. We have writers like Shashi Deshpande, Manju Kapoor, Kiran Desai, Anita Desai, Bharti Mukherjee, Monica Ali, and etc. Many, many more. And they have carved a niche for themselves and are known internationally. Now, when we look at literature and go through it on different phases, studying different phases, we find the post-independent period, has brought to the forefront a number of women novelists who have enriched English fiction by a creative release of gender sensibility. Women has been the focus of many literary works in this period. In the 20th century, women's writing was considered as a powerful medium of modernist and feminist statements. Women writers in post-colonial India have created a literature of their own, placing women in the context of changing global scenario. Now, the writers focus on women who are exposed to a new set of values with education and economic independence. Of late, women writers have started questioning the prominent old patriarchal domination. With a strong element of protest, these writers have deliberately sought the novel as their medium of expression. The spirit of revolt against mechanical life, mismatched marriages, and wayward ways of their life partners is obvious in their writings. Today is the generation of those women writers who are mostly educated in the West. They discuss the latest burning issues pertaining to the attempt at establishing their rights in the context of a harsh, tradition-bound society. They describe the whole world of women with simply stunning frankness, as their writings have a glimpse of the unexplored female psyche. Women writers are moving forward with the strong and sure strides to express their feelings and anguish. The women presented in the modern novels are more assertive, more liberated in their views, and more articulate in their expression when compared to the women of the past. When gender inequality is recognized by the subdominant group, then the feminist thoughts come to the fore. Feminists usually use gender as a cultural or political distinction, in contrast to biological and ineradicable sexual differences. Gender divisions are therefore manifestation of male power. There are different feminist theories which are well intended for gender sensitization. Feminist theories what does the feminist theories do? They try to locate reality and sociality through women's experiences. As feminism is opposed to the idea of subordination of women, both in family and society, by challenging the domination of patriarchal thought in which men claim to define what is good for women and what is not. But the root is basically a concept concerned with the question of identity of women, which is very important. The question of identity of women who share similar experiences in life. Due to the range of feminist issues today, it is much harder to put a label on what a feminist look like, leading to a brand new generation contesting for equality and women's rights. The term feminist becomes less critically received by the female, due to the varying feminist outlook. Feminism focuses on the theory of patriarchy as a system of power that organizes society into a complex relationship based on the assertion of male supremacy. Women rights are human rights. This is the slogan given by feminist activists. And it explains that in general, women are the disadvantaged groups. And gender mainstreaming of human rights is required to raise their status in the quest of gender equality. This will aid women to participate equally in social, political, civil, and economic events, eventually making them entitled to basic fundamental human rights in most part of the world, which is still a distant dream for many. Now, with the gradual evolution of ideas in feminism, the entire outlook has been changed. When we look step by step in towards like the first wave of feminism, the second, the third, and how the outlook has been changed gradually. So, in the just a brief description or a discussion, I want to share that first wave of feminism was a period, let's recall, a period of feminist activity that occurred around the 19th and the 20th century. That's 1830 to early 90s. It focused on, the thought focused on legal issues, property rights, primarily on securing women's right to vote. The first wave of feminist criticism largely focused on the male authors and novelists' view and portray women in their works. Critics during this time considered the ways in which novelists discriminate against and marginalize women characters. When we come to the second phase of feminism, which is also as important as in literature. Now, this wave of feminism that began in 1960 to 1980, it focused on the workplace, it focused on the sexuality, family, and reproductive rights. Women cared so much about these civil issues that they wanted to strengthen their voice by fighting for gender equality. Now, there was a fight for gender equality to ensure that they would be heard. They wanted themselves to be heard, and therefore there was a fight for gender equality. It also focused on the issues of equality and discrimination. Now, second wave feminism provoked extensive theoretical discussion about the origin of women's oppression, the nature of gender, and the role of family. In this context, I would like to mention Kate Millett's book, Sexual Politics, that made the bestseller list in 1970. Again, during this period, most important book, a literature of their own, published in 1977 by Ellen Showalter, talked about one second. Ellen Showalter. It talked about gynocriticism. Gynocriticism involved three major aspects. The first is the examination of female writers and their place in literary history. The second is the consideration of the treatment of female characters in books by both male and female writers. The third and most important aspect of gynocriticism is the discovery and exploration of a canon of literature written by women that aims to reinterpret literature from a feminine point of view. Now, coming to the third phase, the third wave of feminism. It started from 1990s to early 2000, called as the micropolitics of gender equality. And it sees women as intersectional, demonstrating how race, how ethnicity, class, religion, gender, and nationality, they are all significant factors while discussing feminism. It examines issues related to women's lives on international basis. The third wave feminist authors and critics argue that feminism's meaning has changed considerably and needs now to be viewed with a different perspective. They believe that women need to rise above concerns about equality, not merely in jobs, education, or family settings. Instead, third wave feminists argue women need to raise their voice and fight for their rights. They want to transform the traditional notions of sexuality and embrace an exploration of women's feeling about sexuality. In this context, Shobha De's novels need a special mention here. For many Indian women of 90s first encountered liberalized view of feminine sexuality through her novels. Now coming to gradually to the fourth wave of feminism. It began roughly around 2012 with a focus on sexual harassment and rape culture, among other issues. The sexual harassment, the rape culture, was the basic of the rise of the fourth wave of feminism. A key component was the use of social media to highlight and address these concerns. The new wave arose amid a number of high-profile incidents. Remember, when in 2012, a most very important incident happened in December 2012. A young woman who was brutally gang raped in India and subsequently died, sparking local protest and international outrage. Victims of sexual harassment or assault around the world and of all ethnicities began sharing their experiences on social media using the hashtag #MeToo movement. The movement grew over the coming months to bring condemnation to dozens of powerful men in politics, business, entertainment, and news media. So this is what happened during the fourth wave of feminism. And it was in this particular wave of feminism that there was a rise of girls' fan culture on the internet. It gave new confidence to teens and young women, helping them feel their voices mattered and that they were understood by a network of people like themselves. This moment changed feminism in three ways. How? It was a highly democratic movement. We are talking about the fourth wave. It was highly democratic movement, inviting in people of all ages and ethnic backgrounds, including the teens and older women. Secondly, the only requirement was access to a television and some kind of linked computer. You didn't need a college degree to understand the community's code. All you needed was an opinion. It was based on passionate enthusiasm that was both shared, discussed by the individuals. This kind of enthusiasm proved that women were not hysterical, but in fact deeply learned and professional. As for the fifth wave, with its organized political activism, its radical fight against sexual abuse on every level. It began precisely in August 2014, around the time the internet began to give access to all through mobiles. Two separate waves of feminism within 20 years. Neither of them reflected every woman's interest, but together they have massively expanded the ways women can talk about their experiences in public. In literature, coming to literature, in literature, feminism plays an important role as it focuses on issues of gender equality and discrimination. And these issues are reflected in the works of writers like Amrita Pritam, Mahashweta Devi, Ismat Chugtai, Kiran Sopti, Kamala Das, Kamala Markanda, etc. Now, exploring the notions of boundaries, bodies, and sexualities, these writers have dealt with women's oppression, the nature of gender, and the role of the family. The problems and predicaments peculiar to Indian women find artistic expression in the literature since 1970s. In the creative writing of contemporary writers like Anita Desai, Shashi Deshpande, and many others, stated discussing openly about the sexual problem of women and discussing the gender role expectations. Deshpande's fiction delineates women's condition in India in the 70s and 80s. Her novels explore the psyche of middle class educational Indian woman. With rare sensitivity and depth, she portrays the dilemma of Indian woman trapped between her own aspirations as an individual and the forces of patriarchy which confines her. She bears the subtle processes of oppression and gender differentiation operating within the institution of the family and male-centered Indian society at large. The next generation of notable feminist writers include Anita Nair, Anita Desai, Kiran Desai, Taslima Nasreen, Arundhati Roy, Jhumpa Lahiri, etc. There are many more too to the list. A major development in modern Indian fiction is the growth of feminist or woman-centered approach that seeks to project and interpret experiences from the point of feminine consciousness and sensibility. I would quote a quotation of Patricia Meyer, who says, "There seems to be something that we call a woman's point of view on outlook sufficiently distinct to be recognizable through the countries." Now, these experiences, these gendered experiences are the same, not only in India, but in other countries too. These gendered experiences can be experienced anywhere. We talk about women writers in India, but we need to talk about other writers who share the same experience, same gendered experiences. These are the voices from other countries too. In this context, worth mentioning is Azhar Nafisi's novel. I've also written a book on her, but just a few study in brief. Now, Azhar Nafisi's novel, Reading Lolita in Tehran, a book that she has written in 2003, a book in which she describes her experiences as a secular woman living and working in Iran. At present, Azhar Nafisi is a visiting professor and Executive Director of Cultural School of Advanced International Studies in Washington, where she teaches courses on relation between culture and books. Now, her book, Reading Lolita in Tehran, has received positive criticism. The book has been translated into 32 languages and has won diverse literary awards. This rich literary work topped the New York Times bestseller list and appears also on the course syllabi across North America in the Disciples of Women's Studies and International Relations. Most critics agree that the book offers a fresh perspective on literature, as it is an account of her experiences living in Tehran and teaching Western literature. Now, in a country which is very much conservative, we can all give a thought to it that how it is to teach Western literature in a very conservative country like Iran. So, and it is a period which she described is from 70s to 90s. She materializes her lifelong dream of holding secretly a private literature workshop with a group of select students and dedicated students. She opens her home to a group of committed students for a discussion of forbidden Western literature, which was not possible in the campus, not possible in the college. So she opens up her doors to a group of committed students for the discussion of Western literature. Reading Lolita in Tehran is inspired by Nabokov's banned novel Lolita, which is a story of a young girl who has been absorbed into a much older man's life. The novel is notable for its controversial subject, wherein the middle-aged professor is obsessed with a 12-year-old orphan girl with whom he becomes sexually involved after he becomes a stepfather, and for the duration of the novel, she lives in utter helplessness and dependence. The textual analysis of literature by these select students lead to dialogues on issues pertinent to their everyday lives, including the issue of veil, including the issue of marriage, the marital equality. The text, in the light of autobiographical criticism, depicts Iranian women's gendered experiences in Tehran. She emphasizes how books can be relatable to a particular audience and how it opened doors to the freedom of person's imagination. So this is the experiences of the literature, the gendered experiences of literature in other country. The same can be relatable in Indian context too. There is also an example of another woman writer, Azadeh Momani, in which she has written an interesting book on gendered experiences and struggle. The book's name is Lipstick Jihad, that is published in 2005. The book focuses on women's right and jihad. Jihad here literally means struggle. So there is struggle for identity. What is there in Lipstick Jihad? What is the struggle about? When asked about the title, she says, when the first time I entered into Tehran as an adult, this policeman told me to wipe off my lipstick before I entered a theater. Then I noticed that all my female relatives were adept at taking lipstick on and off. It was a symbol of this stubborn resistance. Now, this is what she has brought into the forefront, the identity of women, how these experiences are relatable, and how this helps you in understanding the role of woman identity and role of woman equality. That discrimination is there always, not only in India, but other countries. Now, what difference do we find here? What difference as a gendered experience of a woman, be it in India or any country? Because we see that women are still fighting for their rights and identity. In the literature of modern times, the question of gender is still prevalent. 2018 and 19, very recently, there was a bang on ears on women writers from India who wrote fabulously and daring works. I will give you 2-3 examples in short. The name of the book written by Deepa Mehta is Chup, Breaking the Silence About India's Women. That's written in 2018. Now, that tells the story of woman who is silenced in different stages of her life. There's another writer, Rashmi Saxena, whose book, She Goes to War, Women Militants of India. It's about women who face the oppression and abuse in their life. The Ferment by Nikhila Henry. These are few books of which I'm making a reference, explores the present lives, dreams, and struggle of Indian youth as they fight against the discrimination based on gender, caste, religion, and so on in the society. And now coming to this time, 2020. And during this time of pandemic, academicians, the scholars and researchers say that this will have long-term effect on gender equality, because it's the time of pandemic. It is the time which has come for the first time in our history, in our lives. So this will have a long-term effect on gender equality. A pandemic, whatever its nature be, it magnifies the existing inequalities and bring the family status back to what it was like in the 50s. We have gone back to 50s now, where men would be engrossed in professional yet qualitative activities, even at home, while women cooked, cleaned, and fed the children. The role of both the genders is crucial in this change, in the stage of pandemic that we see in India, and therefore gender sensitization becomes all the more important. This is what I would like to say in this webinar. And as we are staying in this time, it is not that women are not being given an opportunity. Women are exposed to the technology. We are communicating, and right now, as I am here and people are here, we have got connected. We are there to share our views on this gender issue of sensitization and its role in literature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation on gender sensitization. Participants, those who want to ask any question, please post it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask your question to the resource person. Instead of questions, you have been getting many appreciations, ma'am, in the chat box.
Okay, sir.
Yes, you shall. Shivani Vasudevan, you can unmute yourself and ask questions to the resource person. Okay, that is a question in the chat box that from Vanadi Naharajan. Can you tell us a few words about the role of matriarchy in gender sensitization?
in gender role of matriarchy, okay, though the society is patriarchal, but still the views on matriarchy is very important, because being a woman myself, I know that women, though women are all the more sacrificing. Woman is a mother, woman is a sister, woman is a wife, and woman plays so many roles together. So this role is very important, and I feel the dignity of woman has to be there. In this society, woman has to be respected and taken care of, because she is the one who plays a very major role in the society.
Thank you, ma'am. And there is another question from Professor T. Ajit. How do we
Hi,
relate
ma'am.
feminism?
I'm Shivani
Ah.
Vasudevan.
Hello, Shivani. What's your question?
Shivani,
Hi, ma'am.
Shiv-
Ma'am, it was really an interesting session, and I would like to raise a question. If you get a chance of raising your... Hello? Ma'am, am I
Hello,
audible?
no, I can't hear you right now.
Ma'am, am I audible?
I audible? I can hear you now.
Hello?
Hello?
Ms. Shivani, your voice is not clear.
The question,
Yeah.
I haven't heard the question. You can make it
Ma'am,
clear, Shivani.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. If you get... Hello, ma'am.
Hello?
If you get a chance of raising your voice for feminism, in what... Hello?
Yes. I've heard half of the
If you get a
question.
chance of raising your... if you get a chance of raising... Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, I've heard half the question.
If you
You
get a-
complete
Sure, ma'am. If you get the chance of raising your voice for feminism, in what means do you support for feminism in your side of perception?
what is the question? Can you repeat in the times of, what did you say?
Ma'am,
Sir, can you repeat the question? It is not
The
very
voice is
clear.
breaking, ma'am. Maybe she can leave the question in the chat box.
Sure, ma'am.
Sir, can you ask her to repeat, because not very clear.
Yes, ma'am. She will post it in the chat box, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else
Hello.
wants to? Yes, Shivani.
Ma'am, if you get a chance of raising your voice for feminism,
Yes.
what means do you do, ma'am?
What means? Acha. Raising the voice on feminism. Now, see, it depends. If you are an activist, what would you do? You will protest, you will raise your voice, and you will come to the forefront. But as a woman who belongs to a middle class status, I don't think so. We all experience the same thing, but how to raise the voice? Feminism is not about raising your voice and crying for gender equality. You yourself has to make it so much relevant to people that they all respect you, they all listen to you, and your voice could be heard. It is not about demanding. You don't go on the street and demand for equal rights, but the rights should come automatically to you in the family setup, in the workplace. It all depends upon you and your existence, how you behave in the society. And if you demand respect, you don't get respect. Respect comes automatically if you respect the others.
Thank you, ma'am. There is another question from Dr. Sufina. Can you tell something about LGBTQ being an oppressed gender that is yet to be accepted by the society?
See, sir, oppressed gender. Now, with education, people are coming up and coming up with different view and different perspective. Now, the gender oppression, which has been very important, which has played an important role in the society you can say in 80s and 90s. Now, with the awakening, with gender sensitization, as we are coming up, we know that women are no longer oppressed to that extent. This oppression is coming. It is a Western perspective which they have forced on us, taking into consideration that women are oppressed, they are a suppressed being. But we have liberalized view. We are very free in our thinking and our imagination. We have been given freedom. We are working. We are expressing ourselves. We are voicing out. We are protesting. So this oppression, this marginalization to some extent has gone because of gender sensitization. There is an awareness, and we don't see this much in the society at large.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question from Manju Yadav. Are women from working classes more vocal than middle class women, as we see them equally working with men in field and fighting back at the same time?
Teacher, this question has to be addressed. Women are not so vulnerable. It is the woman who decide her place in the society and in the workplace. It is we who are more important and make our importance feel in the workplace, because we all are working. We are working in college, we are working in offices, and here we find that the men are respecting women. Men are not taking women for granted. They are respecting women. So in workplace also, when there is a cordial relationship between, and there is no difference between both the genders, when both the genders can stay and respect together, work together in the workplace, and have like good feelings for each other, empathy for each other, then in workplace also this environment can be made, a congenial environment can be made into the workplace. But here in society, in some cases, we find that women are not getting equal treatment. And so it is here that when she can't resist, she rises or raise her voice. So in the society, both the things, you are vulnerable to everything, but it depends upon a woman how she stays and how she is respected in the society, how she takes up. Because here women are given so many opportunities, and with the working class women, they know that in their field what is good and what is bad. It is not for men to dictate. It is what they are doing and how they are getting respect from the employees. So it is upon the relationship that she builds in her workplace.
Thank you, ma'am. And another question: how to remove the gender inequality in education?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. What is the question?
I'm Razia from second MA.
Okay.
I have a question, ma'am.
Yes.
Could you please tell me the basic differences between feminism and womanism? And is feminism for black people and womanism for white people?
Feminism for black
Is
people?
feminism for white people or womanism for black people?
Womanism for black people. Okay. Feminism. Now see, womanism and feminism.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Womanism for black people. That is your question, no? Woman, can you please repeat the question? Not audible. Not able to hear clearly.
I think She is unmuted.
I'm not able to hear clearly, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Shall we move to the next
Ma'am,
question?
I'm audible now.
Yeah. Now
Ma'am,
I can hear.
what is the basic difference between feminism and womanism?
Okay.
If
Feminism.
feminism for
The basic difference. Feminism is a voice.
white people,
Yeah, I got it. Feminism is a voice of protest. And you protest it because you find that there is inequality, there is injustice. What womanism is yourself, is your identity. So you know that it is the identity, and with this identity you are staying in the society. So womanism is your identity, but feminism is a voice of protest because you feel that there is discrimination in the society and you are protesting for that.
Thank you, ma'am. And there is a question that
thank you, ma'am.
I have a query.
Thank you.
I have a query that I am not blaming all men, but a few
Yes.
who has their own way of high-headedness, like discouraging women in all aspects. How to be practical or tackle such circumstances, or what to do with such remarks which they give all the time, not knowing the worth real struggle for women.
See, sir, women and men, they are both equals. Once you understand the idea of equality, every man, it is everybody. It's not talking about one particular. And in the society, as we have, as you said, there are some men who think that way. In the society, there are some women also who think that way. But in general, what I feel personally is that, and when you treat men and women are equal, it is not the thought that makes you equal. It is the behavior, it is the attribute, it is the attitude towards each other that make you feel equal and respect each other. And this has to be inculcated into the mind of young people, young generation. Family plays a very important role. Educational institution and the society also plays an important role. And when this is understood, when this has been percolated in the young minds that all are equal, then this respect, this equality, this will come automatically. And this awareness, this gender awareness has to come in the early stages of the life, so that with the passing of years, men develop an attitude of respecting, because men should understand a woman is a mother first. So you respect your mother. Then a woman is a wife. The woman is a sister. Woman is associated with so many relationships. So as you respect your mother, you have to respect others too. So this awareness should be there right from the early ages. And I know the family should be responsible, and then the institutions, and then the society at large.
Okay, ma'am. Another question from Shivani Vasudevan. How do you relate feminism during this pandemic time? Because still many are doing work from home and few are doing live sessions by traveling to their institutions. But still there is restrictions. So how do you relate this to pandemic and literature?
Yes. Pandemic, during this, as I've also mentioned, during this pandemic, don't you think that we are returning back to 50s, times of 50s? Because here we see that with the lockdown, with this situation, women are staying at home and men are also staying at home. Women are working. They have got to do extra activities apart from cooking and cleaning and feeding the children. But if a woman is working, then she is also busy with her work, in the college work, the NAC work, etc., through the webinar or through online sessions, online teaching, etc. What men are doing, it's no doubt that they are staying at home and helping women, but they are busy in more professional, they're engrossed in more professional and qualitative activities, which is their part of life, which is very seriously they take into consideration that this is work, and if they have to feed the family, they have to keep on working from home. But here in this situation, where is the balance? I feel the balance should be maintained. So pandemic is a time of, in a very crucial time in which both the genders are passing through. And here, gender sensitization plays a very important role, because it is if men understand women, the women understand everybody, because woman has to take the role of so many things together. So it is the men who are staying at home and engrossed in their professional and academic activities. Still they have to be very careful about the woman, and then only the role of both the genders will be maintained.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a
Shankar,
question.
Okay. Thank you very much for your strong answer, ma'am.
I have a
Shankar,
question.
sir, please wait. Please wait. Please wait. Yes, ma'am. You can, ma'am. You can.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
What is your opinion, ma'am, about the rewriting of myths? For example, Amish is Sita and Divakaran is Palace of Illusions. These rewriting were mythical rewriting of myths. They present the mythical role models. They present a mythical role model as empowered women.
Okay.
So
now,
will it
rewriting
help giving a changed mindset?
Yeah, rewriting of mythical stories or mythical writings about women, it helps in building up the value system which has been lost. So through this, if you're talking about Sita, you talk about the better and the good qualities of Sita, which every person or every man would like to see in their wives. So it is recreating through the myths the strong figures of history, so that the values come back, and the young generation should be sensitized in this direction.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have a question. May I proceed?
Yes.
Yeah, Balaji, you can. You can.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I have a question. Like, typically in our India, in the recent times, that you have touched so many recent incidents about the feminism in India, and I was happy about that. Thank you, ma'am. And apart from that, in today's political condition in India, that so many Indian mythological themes, as ma'am said, it has been rewritten in a feministic way. What do you think about, like, some Islamic scholars from Palestine, like Leila Ahmed? All those people are talking about the compatibility of Islam with feminism and the connection between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. All those things lead to some new openings to the Islamic feminism that can be traced from the Quran with other company with other religions. Do you think what do you think about these steps from the Palestinian critics, and how is your opinion about that, ma'am?
Okay. So actually, relating, when you are relating towards religion, Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, etc. Now, one basic thought of concern which all the religions are related is the religion of humanity. This is what I feel, that religion of humanity has to be propagated, and it has to be understand for better understanding and better living. Now, what the politicians are doing, they are distorting the young minds by bringing into religion, bringing and dividing people on the basis of religion. When you're talking about Islam, when you're talking about feminism, you need to understand many aspects in feminism. It is, a preconceived notion that Islam is a religion. It is a westernized approach, westernized notion that that Islam is a religion in which women are oppressed. Women are made to wear the veil, the issues of veil and female identity. So this is what the Western concept shows. But in reality, when you read Islam, when you study Islam, when you see the other religions, it is not that. It is not that. Now, if you talk about this gender, it is talk about equality, we talk about in relation to it, we find that irrespective of all the other factors, irrespective of the inequality or injustice, because that takes a long time also to discuss. I can discuss on Islam also, I can discuss on the female, the veil identities, but then don't want to move away from the track. Only thing is, what I would like to say to the young generation is that irrespective of all the religions, what you have to see is the one particular cord that binds all the religion together, and it is the religion of humanity.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question, ma'am. Rape culture is worse in rural areas than the urban. Educating the teens in rural about rape culture is quite challenging as they consider it as a taboo that should not be speak out. How can we help them in getting awareness in a smooth way without panicking them?
Yes. The first thing is to create an awareness. One should have that dignity. When awareness is there, men are then made to believe that woman is just like a mother. All has to be respected. Now, in this rape culture, which is indeed a taboo and a very bad thing to happen, it's really very sorry that in spite of awareness, in spite of awareness program, in spite of gender sensitization, there is still the rape culture. And it is just because of this culture that women are coming up, they are voicing the protest. When we are talking about the rural and the urban, in the rural societies, it is there, but then the voices are not heard. The people of the family are also not coming up because they have to maintain the dignity. And here in the urban cities where the rape culture is there, people are raped, then the voice of protest is being is there, and they feel that it's not a taboo, one should have justice. So to bring about justice, people are coming up, people are protesting, and here, because of the social media, because of the Me Too movement, then it is becoming very popular. And due to its popularity, that people are coming, it is through the social media that we are coming to know that such sort of things are happening. But this should not happen. This should not happen very smoothly. How to make men understand this is the duty of the society, to sensitize them, so that they again, as I'm talking about, they should respect women irrespective of anything or any inequality, and injustice should not be there, and they should respect that. If they start respecting womanhood, then this rape culture would automatically go forever.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you please share your experience as a woman with literature?
As a
woman with literature.
Okay. My experiences with women of literature. Okay, literature is a passion for me, and my experiences in dealing with diverse type of women and diverse type of literature, as I've written books on diverse subjects too, it is because that I want to understand myself first. Then I want to make people understand that woman is empowered. Women have got the power to move forward, to think passionately, to think and reopen her imagination. It is not that women are oppressed and women are there in the society. I, being a woman myself, and that too being a Muslim woman, but people say that women cannot move out in the society. But then, with my limitations, with the challenges which I have faced in my personal life, I feel that every woman should have the power to rise above the expectation and work accordingly, so that it is not the question of equality, but it is the question of my own dignity and my own thought and my own expression and my own identity. So I personally feel that as a woman in literature, you have to have an identity of your own, and I, through literature, has established my identity and very contented about it.
Thank you, ma'am. One final question, ma'am.
Yes.
When women or a girl talks to a male in friendly way, but society around them talks bad about them, and they are putting question about women character, and a person who put question about character is another woman. What you think about this, ma'am?
See, sir, women talking about women and men talking about women, these are two different things. But you know that men and women, you don't have to explain it by words. It is there in your gestures and in your thought. If you don't have any bad intentions, then in a workplace, in colleges, in the society, when men and women are mixing, then they can mix as friends, and it is the outlook, it is in the eyes, as you say, eyes in the it is all in the eyes of the beholder. What you think, you see. So if a person thinks that way, then automatically he or she will speak in that way. But then there is no harm in mixing of sexes, in having a good and healthy relationship. But once the relationship are healthy, everybody in the society accepts it. But if the intentions are bad, then a woman can talk about a woman, or man can talk about a woman, but because whatever are the intentions, if woman has got that sixth sense, if somebody talks to her, she can understand what is the intention of this person. So that matters in the society.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much for your all the answers. And as on the behalf of the Department of English, I'm feeling very proud to have you as a resource person today, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Shankar sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your strong answers, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Are requested to submit your feedback form. That link is posted in chat box. You can also watch this lecture in our department YouTube channel within few hours. The YouTube channel name is Department of English Aided, Yadava College. Thank you. Now I would like to call Dr. Devi ma'am, Assistant Professor and Organizing Secretary of this program, Yadava College, to propose vote of thanks. Ma'am, this session is yours.
Thank you, Shankar. And hello, everyone. So on behalf of Yadava Department of English, I express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Farzana Ali for sharing her experienced knowledge in the field of gender studies and sensitization. Ma'am, your lecture threw light on how emotions are equal for women and men, but limitations are more on women. And you moved on to the fourth phase of feminism, which raised alarm for the opinion of women gender expectations. Opinion of women matters. And the reason creating awareness and ripples and waves that shook the very foundation of male domination has also been discussed. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your great insights. And our topic of discussion has created a sensitized many young scholars, and it is shown in the discussion time. They post very serious, and the resource person has very well answered them with all her experience. So this we took a lesson that it is not only good for any particular gender, also for societies, and it is its responsibility. I also thank the participants for your exuberant participation. Thank you one and all.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you all who are all supporting us and making today's event as a successful one. Thanks a lot.
Sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now participants can leave the forum. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Madam, thank you
Now
so
we
much.
can leave this.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So you give me your permission to leave?
Yeah, your lecture will be posted in the YouTube in a few hours, madam.
Okay, fine, sir. So you will be sending me on WhatsApp?
I'll send you the link.
Okay, fine, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again for inviting me and making me more comfortable in this new technology era.
And we will be disturbing you often like this.
No problem, sir. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm always there for you, and thank you so much. And you also, I expect your feedback also on this lecture. How was it?
It was wonderful, madam. It is not just a formality of saying it. I know how academically excellent you are.
Oh, no, sir. Not that way.
Yeah. Because your lecture was around 50 minutes and the question session was around half an hour. Normally, the questionnaire will be more entertaining as well as educative than the lecture normally. So the people get cleared. And you were very kind enough to answer all the questions.
I could hear, so I was able to answer this.
Yeah. And if there is any technical glitch from our side, please don't mistake that.
No, sir. I was quite comfortable, right? As I told you in the starting, as it's my first experience. So sitting before the new technology gadget and talking made me a bit comfortable for a few seconds as I was introducing, but then it was okay.
But we didn't experience anything like that, madam. It seems you are so much experienced in this kind of technology.
Oh God. No, sir. My serious confession, right in the starting, I was a bit hesitant. Say, how am I approachable? Am I audible? Are you able to see me? Because from here, those traditional ways are gone, and now we have to be acquainted with this sort of technology.
Yes, madam. And once we planned this webinar, we were very particular to bring you for one session, and I'm very happy that you're here.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It's only for you that it has been made possible, and so kind of you for thinking about me and inviting me here for this lecture, sir. And I'm always there. So when you want me again, I'm always there.
Sure, madam. Sure, madam. Thank you so much, madam.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Now we can leave, madam.
I can leave now?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. अच्छा कैसे leave करते?